is Christina Barney watching Black Tea News. Hello, hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. Today we're going to be discussing this viral, and it is pretty darn viral, a conversation going around TikTok about a scenario of would men rather entrust their little daughters in the forest alone to be with a man, random man, or a bear? And the answers have been very interesting, and it sparked a lot of back and forth and has illuminated the insanity of many unwell people, I would say. So I wanted to chime in and show you guys some examples of some conversations that people have been having about this topic. I'm gonna play a few videos and give you a play-by-play of some of the commentary, but it speaks to how some bad actors can really warp your entire worldview on humanity and just really allow sexism to roam free, I guess. So we'll be talking about that. Also, this report from the Daily Wire about an IVF clinic that's being sued by a couple of different couples because apparently some technicians implanted some dead embryos in the mothers to cover up an error on their part. So it's a pretty egregious story, so I wanted to just cover it. I just saw that news not too long ago. So anyway, before we jump into everything, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate, because it does cost a stream and run my website, all that stuff, so you guys can support. I very much do appreciate you guys. You guys can give if you would like to give on Facebook via stars, and on YouTube you guys can do super chats, or you guys can do super thanks for watching back later. But the best way to give is to go directly on the website. There's links to all my social media in the description for watching on Facebook and YouTube. There's also a link to like an Amazon store that I have, so you guys can check that out as well. Thank you to those of you who are watching live and to those of you who watch it back. Also, check out different merch that we have at the store, like pro-choice men are sus. And people got really mad because I did the other day, because I did a video on Lizzo, and I talked about it live, but I did a TikTok about it too. In one of my videos, I mentioned that she gave money to Planned Parenthood, and I called it a baby killing factory. And people like, I was listening to what you were saying until you called it a baby killing factory. I'm like, what do you think they do, ma'am? I'm like, well, that's only 3% of what they do. It's not okay, technically, but so I had to go back and forth with some people and explain, like, okay, Planned Parenthood, when you go there, they will attach things. So maybe you go in for an abortion, but while you're there, they also give you a test to see if you have any STDs. They might, give you some birth control pills. Maybe they fill up on your titty to make sure that you don't have, any lumps, and then they just refer you to someone else who can actually, see if you have cancer. So they might do 4 things for you. So what you went in for is the abortion, but that's only a quarter of the services. Like, so they'll do attachments. Just like I used to work at a computer store, and we were selling computers, but we would attach other things because we wanted, people to also get ink and things that had, higher, well, in our case with the computer stores, like cables and other things had more of a markup, so there was more margin that we could have with stuff. So it really depended, our business depended on us attaching other things to the computer, because the computers are basically, sold for, in most cases, basically what they cost the store. So buying antivirus and buying warranties, that's, which I was pretty good at selling warranties. I think maybe better than the average person. I didn't like pushing too hard on stuff, you know. I would suggest things that I would get myself, and I do buy warranties, so you know, I had to train to overcome objections and stuff. But even if like we sold a lot of flash drives, you know, that was actually my section at one point, to be over, and ink. Like even if we sell a lot of paper, even if we sold a lot of ink, it was still a computer store. So yes, Planned Parenthood is a baby killing factory. They kill like 375,000 or so babies a year. They do very few adoption referrals. You know, that it is what it is, guys. It is what it is. And then man, then somebody's who I was going back and forth with said something like really awful to me. And I'm like, you know how pro-choice people are like, we just want the choice. We just want the choice for the woman. This person told me that they wish that basically all of my children that I produce die horribly and like miscarry, or I have complicated I guess things like ectopic pregnancies and stuff, and hope that I never mother. And I'm like, that's not very pro-choice of you. That's not very pro-choice of you guys. I thought, are you a death cult or are you just for women? I can't tell these days, guys. But anyway, sorry to get off track there. You guys know I like to share. So anyway, let's go on to the whole TikTok debacle, since we're already talking about TikTok. So a woman posed a question to men. Now, what's funny is that a lot of people are upset with men's take on this, but as you shall see, it's literally a question that is posed to men uh at first. So lots of people are sharing their thoughts. I'll have to actually go on TikTok and make another video addressing this, but here we go. This is the video that apparently started it all.
Dads with daughters, would you rather have your daughter be in the woods, like little daughter in the woods with a bear, or a man? Maybe asking it this way will allow men some extra perspective of what women are saying, because stitch this and not show me that you're emotional about having to make that decision. That if her life depended on it and you had to choose one, the bear or the man, which would you choose? And I think your answer can absolutely make other men who just are so oblivious to what women are saying now understand.
You know, I'm gonna take it back. I don't know if this was actually the first. This video got. Let me see. How many views does this one have? It's a lot of views. Look at them, how many hearts and comments it has. I don't know if you can see on here how many it has. Maybe I'll go to my phone real quick. So this question might have been proposed. This might not be the original. So let me walk it back. This is the first one that I saw people responding to this, and people responding to this particular question, how it was asked. So there could have been some people who just asked the question overall, but I know a lot of people are responding to the way that she asked it. And I've even seen like some people ask dads of that question the way that she's posing it. Now, I would choose the man. I'm not a father, but I would choose the man if it was a conversation where I had the choice myself, um, or if I was a parent and it was between a man and a bear. Now, some people are saying, well, there's worse thing. The bear might kill you, but there's some things that are worse than death, implying that stranger that you are randomly paired with in the forest is going to abuse you and hurt you in all kinds of different ways. And man, I'm just thinking about stories I've heard of bear attacks. I heard the story my dad told as a when I was a kid, and about how the bear clawed and the man's skin was just like falling off, and and there was someone in one of these comment sections that said they were a survivor of a bear attack and have had to use a cane like basically all of their lives. So uh, bears, they might not attack you, but they from what I've read anyway, bears can be pretty unpredictable. I i I just wouldn't choose the bear if it was if someone was asking me if I had the option. Definitely would not choose the bear. Uh, her video. Now maybe it's not the original because it has that one has 146,000 views there. Um, but people are asking men to look at it that particular way, and people are still men are still choosing or saying that women are crazy if they choose the bear. And I one of the videos I saw, I don't have it pulled up, but he was a clinical psychologist. He's like, I'm in between like seeing clients right now. He's like, but I got to talk about this. He's like, I've tried not to, but I've come across this too many times. And he said, if you were talking about specifically about some really evil people, yeah, you wouldn't want to be paired with them, but you're talking about an animal in the woods. Maybe it's a feral bear or whatever, but a big bear. They don't say what kind of bear. You assume it's dangerous or capable of a lot of terror, and men can be too. But most men are not monsters. Most men aren't going to be out to get you, out to hurt you, out to abuse you, wouldn't sexually assault you. Most men wouldn't probably pay you any mind. Most men wouldn't want to bother, which another video I'm going to show you guys makes that point. You know, there are some evil men in the world, but criminals, even criminals, like in the scenario with the father, um, and it's a little child. You have to be all kinds of special evil to do something to a little child. And even criminals in jail, hardened criminals who have killed other people, gang members, etc., etc., when they hear someone is coming in and they did some stuff to some kids, that person may not live very long in the prison. Because even you might be an evil person yourself, but people don't want to tolerate that kind of evil walking around knowing that they crossed a line messing with some kids. So even terrible men, there are lines that they will not cross. I would understand if there was like you're in the forest and you have a choice between a bear and the people that Alfred Kinsey, was it Arthur Kinsey? Alfred or but Kinsey is one of the two. I was confused. It's either Alfred or Arthur. Somebody let me know. But it is Kinsey. If one of his dudes, one of his creepy pedos who would write to his institute, if it was one of his guys in the forest, I can understand being like, you know what, I wanted her to take the chance with this bear. But most people, if they saw a lost child in the forest, they would probably call the police. They would probably say, where's your mommy, little girl? Let me help you. Get to somewhere. What happens when you see a random child in the mall? You're like, where are your parents? But most people, now there are traffickers and people out there who will go and steal kids and stuff like that. Sure. But most people, their instinct is like, let me help. Or people be like, I ain't bothering. There's a clip from the TV show Blackish. I haven't really watched Blackish. I've seen just clips. I don't think I've seen a full episode. But there's this one episode when the main character father is at work, I believe, and he sees a little white girl on the elevator. and he doesn't know why she's alone. But he's like, nope. And he decides to leave and doesn't help the white child. And then these other white dudes are talking to him about it. And they're like, that is so terrible. You wouldn't help the white child. And he's like, nope, y'all not getting me. I don't think so. And then another black guy comes in. He's like, oh my gosh, there was a white child in the elevator. And he didn't help the child either because he didn't want to be in a situation where someone would be like, that Negro is messing with that white child. And then there's all these kinds of accusations. So I thought about that scene from Blackish because you have all of these assumptions from all of these women who are like, I would rather take the bear because of men do this and men do that. And you get men who might be inclined to do the right thing that are like, nah, I'm just going to mind my business. I'm just going to mind my business. Because even when you do the right thing, some Karen out there is calling the cops on you. Somebody is assuming the worst in you. Someone is framing you. There was a viral clip of a guy who saw just a woman on the elevator, and he was just like, nah, I'll get the next one. And she was mad. And she's like, this is because of men, and because of men, they're too afraid to ride the elevator. Oh, it's just dudes. Don't blame the man for being like, you know what, I don't want to be alone. And you know what? It didn't really explain why he didn't want to be alone in the elevator with her. There could have been a different reason other than I don't want to be accused of doing something with this crazy chick. I think she even maybe thought like there was like commentary around like, oh, they like, I can't, like maybe he couldn't control himself, or some people thinking all sorts of weird things about it. So anyway, the clinical psychologist was just like, or the counselor or whatever, he was just like, this is unhealthy. Like, this is crazy. He just flat out said, this sort of thinking is crazy. That you would just equate men in general at random to these evil deeds. And there's women saying things like, oh, well, if something happened to me in the bear, people aren't going to say that it was the bear's, that it was my fault. And equating that to how people will victim blame women in the case of the bear. If you choose the bear and the bear does attack you, I mean, I guess you would bear some of that responsibility. But I understand that there are many women out there who have been deeply traumatized, deeply wounded, and assaulted and made victims. But that is not the vast majority of men. It is not. I would not pick a bear. I wouldn't even pick a dog at random. I wouldn't. I know people like dogs. I don't. You don't know somebody's gonna come foaming at the mouth, and it's gonna be like that dog and people under the stairs or something. I don't know if that's why, or Cujo, or I'm like, no thanks. I would pick the man. I would definitely pick the man, because if I get lost in the forest, I'm gonna be lost in the forest. I'm gonna be very lost in the forest. I don't have any good sense of direction. And hopefully we would make it out okay. If it was a dangerous man, if he was a slender, like kind of small man, maybe I could gang up on him, sit on him or something, do a super jump as I used to do as a child. Maybe I'd be okay. Some dudes you just can't fight off, assuming something that someone is going to harm you in some kind of way. But if you just think about, granted, you don't hear about bear attacks all the time, but we're not hanging around bears all the time. But we hang around men all the time. And you can say, well, stuff happens to women all the time. Think about how many men you interact with all the time walking up and down the street, going to class, going to work, doing deliveries, sitting in restaurants, going to the mall. Think about your father, your brothers, your your relatives that you care and love and have great affection for. Are all those dudes or a majority of those dudes homicidal maniacs that are waiting for the right moment to strike in the forest to harm someone? I don't think so. But if you do have different experiences or you listen to people who have traumatic experiences, it can enormously cloud your judgment and just create an unhealthy perspective of the world. We saw this with like BLM, Black Lives Matter stuff, with like police shootings. I mean, I guess this kind of predates BLM with the police shootings and stuff, but they were pushing a narrative that police were hunting people, and there are folks who debunked it, like the data analyst from Reuters who ended up getting fired because people were so offended by his facts. But if you say like, hey, how many unarmed black men are shot by police, the number is going to be like around 20, like a year. But there's people who think the number is like tens of in the tens of thousands. I keep this graph on hand. Um, that shows a number. There's people who think the answer is more than 10,000. Now, I thought it was funny that the more right leaning you are, the more conservative you are, the more you tend to be like right about the estimation. But yeah, there's people who literally think the number was 10,000. So if you thought the number was 10,000 a year of unarmed, you know, you can understand why maybe you would have that sort of perception, but that doesn't mean it's accurate. That doesn't mean it's accurate. So let's watch another one of these reactions to this whole thing. So this one went pretty viral.
Hypothetical question about this bear versus man in the forest is about to get a lot of y'all feelings hurt. Some of y'all women, you're doing too much. You are the bear in the forest. You need to be scared of yourself. At the end of the day, a lot of y'all are running around acting like you so scared of men, acting as if you fear for your life on a day-to-day basis. Girl, men don't even pay you no mind on a day-to-day basis. You go to the mall, they ignore you. You go to the store, they ignore you. You go to the club and the lounges with your homegirls and they talk to everybody but you. Men ain't worried about you. You could be in the forest with a bear and a man, and you got a better chance of the bear wanting to smash. It's almost comical listening to a group of women who invite strangers from dating apps to their house to smash on the first day are scared of men. I can't tell. I can't tell the way y'all be getting pregnant by strangers, men who last names you don't even know, men who mama you don't meet until the baby shower. I can't tell you scared of these men. Not the way you be out here giving out your address so freely and letting them come over there and Netflix and chill, the way you be going over their house when you don't even know them. Jeffrey Dahmer would have a field day with this generation, and somehow y'all scared of men. You scared to be in a forest with a man? Be for real. Y'all are comical. Nobody even takes you serious at this point because you're a joke. Every time you get on this internet and open up your mouth, it's a contradiction and you're a joke.
So yeah, I saw her video because there was friends of mine who were reposting it. So people were not happy with her video there. I had forgotten some of the stuff she was saying, and she was yeah, but the way that people talk about stuff is not how they react. Especially like people who would take a man home, and some people ain't even like making these guys wear condoms. And there's a couple of like male feminists out here who are responding and talking down to these men who are like, these women are crazy for picking the bear. And I have a lot of suspicion for male feminists, because I just am leery of folks who tell you what you want to hear all the time and pander like that, I guess. And one of those examples was Modern Warrior, who was big on TikTok and stuff, and he was, a really racist guy. He was a Native American dude, and he would start his videos with "Hey colonizer" and talk trash about white people all the time. So he wasn't a good dude, but he would do videos appealing to women and other stuff like that. There was one creator called Chelsea Hart, or not called, her name was Chelsea Hart, and there was a huge drama because they hooked up, and apparently she let him not have it be covered. And then she found out that not too long after that, he was smashing somebody else. And then she had this dramatic reaction to him on TikTok, and was talking about how she's like, I would have never been so vulnerable with you, and I opened up to you about the trauma that I had, and I had to be like afraid that I might be pregnant because she didn't use protection. And I'm like, and these are grown people. These are grown people. So he wasn't a random. But he didn't even pay for her flight, I don't think, to go out and see him. um but but anyway, the trauma that she had explained to him where she was vulnerable was that she had an abortion, because at first she just said she lost a child, and people were like, oh my gosh, and it came out that it was an abortion, and the people were mad because they're like, well, you chose to kill that child. And but she took the pill, the abortion pill, and the way she described it was just like traumatizing, like awful. Obviously it's the abortion is bad, and she's made some very pro abortion videos where she danced to like yeeting the fetus and all kinds of stuff. So people had a lot of mixed feelings about that whole situation. Um, but nevertheless, Lance, Modern Warrior, was a creep, and a lot of these dudes are creeps. Not all of them, I don't. But there are some women who just believe sort of crazy things, and we don't need to pacify the crazy. Everybody needs to be called out when they have strange opinions, and choosing the bear is a strange opinion. I understand, and I can hear loud and clear why some of the women are choosing bears, because they'd rather be gruesomely mauled to death and face other sort of things that a man could do. But it's very likely that you might just be led out the forest having a nice conversation with a stranger, and maybe you'll never see each other again. Maybe he could be your husband to be. I don't know, but you chose the bear. You chose the bear. So anyway, here I want to show you this follow up to this uh TikToker, because people were coming at her and calling her a pick me, and she gave him the business, man.
So y'all favorite creators got y'all coming into my comment section and calling me a pick me, asking did they pick me, and then the men are responding back to y'all and saying that they would pick me, and then you're getting upset that the men are telling you that they would pick me, and you making comments talking about they all would, but none of them are taking home dates and making an honest woman out of her. Your daddy didn't make an honest woman out of your mama. But here we are. But the thing I'm trying to understand is how can a man take me on a date if I'm not willing to say yes? Like where is the disconnect? Where's the elevator not coming up to the top? I don't date. There's no way that a man could take me on a date, Pukisha, if I'm not willing to say yes. I'm gonna keep saying it. Y'all have taken the validity out of the word pick me. At one point, it did hold weight. Now it don't. At this point, the whole definition of it is shifting. It's shifting to woman who thinks objectively. That's what pick me is turning into. Any woman who thinks objectively and she don't think with a one-track mind with the rest of women, then she has to be a pick me. But I'm sure that this pick me comment ain't going the way you wanted it to, and it's backfiring on you because you didn't expect the men to respond back to you and tell you that they would pick me if I allowed them to. Be for real.
So another great video there from her. And people get mad when you disagree with the hive mind of females, and they do call you pick me. People get called pick me for, speaking out against you know, what's supposed to be the woman's objective, or they might do it if you I mean, people call me a pick me for being a black person who votes Republican. So the idea of a pick me is you're just saying stuff because you want to be picked. Um, Now I do think there are some people out there who have like high pick me energy. I don't really like the phrase. People throw it around all the time. I've seen enough content from Pearl Davis where I think she's a pick me. But I don't generally like the term. Um, but yeah, there's definitely some pick me's out there but she's not a pick me because she just speaking the truth, speaking some facts. Now this video is from a feminist, and I thought she had an interesting video after I visited her profile.
Men are scarier than bears. You ain't watched enough nature documentaries, baby.
Oh, Living Nature documentary here. I'm a former park ranger and I've spent a lot of time around bears. And as someone yourself who has watched lots of nature documentaries, you of course would know why a bear would want to unalive someone, right? It has to be because the hiker was showing too much skin. Or they were too drunk to stand. Or the hiker was just asking for it and secretly wanted it, right? Actually, that part's kind of true. Hey, do you know the #1 demographic that gets attacked by bears each year? Yeah, it's men between the age of 18 to 35. Also, do you know the #1 reason why men between the age of 18 and 35 get attacked by bears? It's because they were antagonizing it. I learned a lot of things in my career as a park ranger, but there was one distinctive thing that stands out from all the rest. If you get attacked by a bear, you probably deserve it. It takes a lot to get those oversized dogs riled up. But with men, you don't have to do anything to them. You could just be existing as a human being, as a female human being, on a random Tuesday, and they'll still attack you. Bears are not out to dominate or out to force control over someone else. They're not going to lock me in their basement for 24 years just because they can. If a bear is going to attack me, I probably did something to threaten its survival. Men attack out of maliciousness and desire to control and to dominate over someone else. You act like women don't know what would happen if a bear attacked us. We know that they could tear us limb from limb. But if I survived that, I would have a sick-ass story about how I survived a bear attack, and no one would blame me for it. If I survived an attack by a man, I would absolutely be blamed for that. What were you wearing? Did you say something to upset him? How much did you drink? Get the fuck out of here.
Okay. Can you imagine if you were attacked by a bear and you came calling for help and this is the park ranger who is there for you and you're a guy and they're just like, you deserved it, sir. What did you antagonize the bear, huh? So it's, you know, it's funny that she feels that way strongly about what men would do to the bear and scolds that sort of rhetoric when it's directed at women, which people do victim blame women. And sometimes like the victim blaming, it's gross and you need to like just help the victim and go after the guy. But sometimes there are conversations that are worth having with women and other folks so they can avoid situations like this. Like she mentioned like, oh, say things like you're too drunk to stand and other stuff like that. I've never been in a situation like that. I wouldn't hang out with people who would be in situations like that. Not so maybe like if maybe if that's what you do in your downtime and we're at some kind of work related event or probably a political event, because there's some people out there in the political world who drink way too much. But yeah, maybe they would do that, like, so maybe we have some kind of like connection where, but I wouldn't be on scene anywhere where something like that would happen. So they're describing the type of men who would do these sorts of things, and I'm just like, that is like so foreign to me in these scenarios. And I'm not saying that there's not male predators in other situations. I mean, because there's you could coaches and teachers and people in church can be sexual predators as well. But the particular scenarios that she's naming, or a few that she's listed, sometimes you can control your settings to mitigate risks, but people who harm you, what they do, the sins that they commit, they are responsible for that and should be held accountable for that. But again, sometimes when you want to have conversations about mitigating the risks of like trash dudes and the dangers of trash dudes, people are like, "Oh, you're victim blaming." I'm trying. Sometimes people are trying to help you. Like I mentioned, Modern Warrior and Chelsea Hart. Yeah, she probably should have read all the signs and not sleeping around anyway. But flying, I'm pretty sure she flew herself out and went out there. I'm like, he couldn't even do that himself. Okay, and then not have him wear a condom. Come on. He was a jerk. But you're also a grown woman. Okay? So anyway, I thought this whole sort of deranged take here was interesting because I don't remember why I clicked on her profile. But Rachel here, the park ranger, the friendly park ranger, she's pro-choice. And her profile also says that she's like a raging feminist. I'm pretty sure you guys got that without me being able to tell you that. But looking at that from what she's saying and relating it back to her worldview of being pro-choice, I'm like, okay, what if the scenario was different and we were asking men, would you rather your daughter, your little child, be walking alone in the forest or in the womb of someone who believes it's okay to tear them apart limb from limb, to suck out their guts, to crush their skull? Like, who do you think is going to be safer? The child who's going to be safer around. She was mad at men for, she named some crazy scenarios, just kidnapping you, holding you in the basement for 24 hours, or just like things that they happen all the time because they happen because there's a lot of people on this planet who do shady things. So of course you're going to find a lot of chaos and evil. I've just never been attacked on a Tuesday by a dude before. And I'm not saying I haven't been in situations where it was tense and it was like, I don't feel quite safe right now. That's happened. And I've there's been situations that were like, you've crossed the line there. And unfortunately, everybody knows somebody that has been inappropriately handled and assaulted. So it happens. But she said that men will attack, are malicious and will attack for no reason, just for being a woman and existing. And she also said that if the bear attacks, it's because they deserve it. When you abort a fetus, do they deserve it? When you abort a fetus, isn't it just because they're existing? There could be other factors and stuff going on, but you are still choosing to commit a harm against them. There's a lot more dead kids because of abortion than there are because of bears or men. Um, I guess if you count the abortionist who may be male, I don't, maybe that'll even out. But yeah, at least in a modern sense. I mean, if you rack up all the totals and maybe, maybe, but we're talking about like a million every year. So crazy feminist. I look in the mirror, man. Look in the mirror. I just wouldn't want to rock with a bear. I've never seen a bear in the wild. I've never really I think been in a position where maybe that would happen. I didn't even like when I would some years ago when I would go walking around like our subdivision. Sometimes you see deer. And I saw this video of this deer just like hammering on somebody. So in the back of my mind, I'm like, what if a deer came out and was just like so that would always kind of be in the back of my mind when I would go running. Mostly walking, sometimes running in between the miles, but and she called the bear oversized dogs. Like I said, I wouldn't even pick a dog over a man. There could be the chance that you get like a little, teeny tiny dog if you hit the random will, but you might get Cujo. You might get Cujo. So you might hit the random wheel on the dude and you're in a forest with Henry Cavill. So I don't know. I just want to pick the bear. There's women know there's many, many, many fantastic men in this world. Many, many, many fantastic men in this world. And if you are willing to, if you're willing to sleep with a man, how can you entertain this idea that you'd rather be with the bear? If you would lay with a dude, if you would marry a dude, if you would choose to procreate with one and have a little man yourself, if you loved your father at all, if you care for your brothers, I just don't know how you can just throw men aside. Because women, some of them are like, I know about bears aren't gonna attack or whatever, and some people are like, no, if the bear mauls me, and she said you'll have a cool story. What if your face it's just like gone, just all stitched up and Frankenstein or whatever, because their skin all slid off and stuff. No, I'm not choosing the bear. I'm not choosing the bear. Anyway, I think that's all I got to say about the bear situation right now. So I'm just looking at your comments real quick to see. So, someone said many men have been deeply assaulted and traumatized too. Yeah. And there have been responses to women's responses, like the stuff that she was saying about victim blaming and all that kind of stuff, and what can happen if you're alone. There were men who were saying things like, oh, if it was a woman in the bear, I would choose the bear because I wouldn't want to be accused of sexual assault when I didn't do anything. And that happens. Men are falsely accused. There are women who will set up men for a long game and blackmail them and be like, I'll tell everybody that you did this, this, and this, or I already start telling people that you did this, this, and this. And with the stuff that Biden just did with Title IX and rolled back it to what was going on under the Obama administration when these boys on college campuses will basically get the shaft before you can really prove that they did anything. There's a reason why the Kavanaugh situation hit so deep with a lot of folks. That man there's no evidence that they met. She didn't have a date, she didn't have a time, she didn't have a location. Everyone involved with the story refuted her story. She threw her friend under the bus. There were so many things that didn't make sense about the Christine Blasey Ford story involving Kavanaugh. And people were like, well, his life wasn't ruined. He ended up on the Supreme Court. He's there right now. Y'all tried. Y'all tried. One of the most evil things during that time, he had talked about how he loved to teach sports to young girls, and how rewarding and stuff that was for like basketball. And then I think it was USA Today. I'm not positive, but or it was either US Today, US Weekly, something like that. I could be wrong, but I think it was maybe USA Today. But did a story about why they didn't think that he should be allowed to teach basketball anymore. And like, they want to not just keep this man off the Supreme Court. They're trying to rip apart his soul. And there was not just the Blasey Ford accusations. There was Sweatnick and the gang train things going on. I remember watching, I think it was CNN, and they're like, we're gonna air this go to this press conference or whatever and hear this people talk about this, but we're not gonna we haven't had time to verify it. I'm like, what? Like, after the news. So people understand that due process is important because people lie. And then they have that ridiculous believe all women situation, even though women know that women lie. Women know that women lie. But the last thing I want to say about this before I move on to this IVF story is that I wonder how many people who stitched or talked about this video who said that they would choose the bear. I wonder how many people who said that they would choose the bear are totally okay with a unwell in the mind man dressing up like a woman and going to the locker room, to the YMCA locker room, to the women's spas, and going in there with the little girls and the women. How many people are infuriated by normal, everyday man, but will fight tooth and nail for a trans woman to go to the women's prisons and to be a swimmer on the girls' sports teams and all that stuff? And there's obviously a lot of feminists who, I don't think everyone who's talking about this subject weighed in probably identifies as a feminist, but there's obviously a lot of feminists who don't like trans women in women's spaces. But there are women who just are like, well, we're all women. No, we are not. And you can't just pretend like there's only a difference when you're a heteronormative cis man. That can't be the only time when men are dangerous. So anyway, let's talk about this IVF story. So Daily Wire reported on this story that there was a clinic that is getting sued for implanting dead embryos into women. And they did it because they were supposed to put like some kind of a saline injection or something in there. And they, I think it was hydrogen peroxide or something that killed the embryos. But this is the story written by Amanda Harding from Daily Wire. 9 couples are suing Ovation Fertility in Newport Beach, California, alleging the in vitro fertilization IVF provider knowingly implanted deceased embryos into patients to cover up a lab mistake. There are at least 2 joint lawsuits pending against the provider, according to People. The filings allege that a lab embryologist wrongly injected the embryos with hydrogen peroxide or a different toxic substance instead of a sterile solution while they were in an incubator, which caused the embryos to be killed instantly. The lawsuits further alleges that Ovation employees were aware that the embryos were deceased when they were implanted, but chose to have these dead embryos implanted into the would-be mothers. Specific charges against the facility include negligent misrepresentation, fraud, negligence, and medical battery, per ABC News. While most plaintiffs choose to remain anonymous, one couple spoke with People about their experience at the clinic and why they chose to pursue legal action. Brooke Breger and her husband, Bennett Hardy, began pursuing IVF treatments 2 years ago. They expressed distress at finding out the procedure they went through at Ovation had no chance of success. It's been very difficult and has taken such a toll. Berger told the outlet, there was no chance at all. We found out that we went through all of this for nothing. It was really heartbreaking. Their attorney, Robert H. Marcuro, said the story that came up more often and more consistently, at least 3 or 4 times with our clients getting it secondhand from their doctors, was this notion that somehow hydrogen peroxide had been accidentally introduced into the incubator while the embryos were there, which hydrogen peroxide is basically like battery acid to those embryos. It's a very caustic substance, particularly if it's a higher percentage strength, and it was lethal to them. That's why there's 100% mortality rate for those embryos during this procedure. But Ovation has never come out and said exactly what happened. The attorney continued, they don't have qualified personnel and protocols to ensure things like this don't happen. The couple further alleges that the IVF provider attempted to refund the cost of the procedure to avoid litigation. The spokesperson for Ovation gave a statement to People via email. Ovation Fertility has protocols in place to protect the health and integrity of the embryo under our care. This was an isolated incident related to an unintended laboratory technician error that impacted a very small number of patients, the spokesperson wrote. As we recognize that pregnancy numbers were lower than our usually high success rates, we immediately initiated an investigation. We have been in close contact with these few impacted patients since the issue was discovered. We are grateful for the opportunity to help patients build a family, and will continue to implement and enforce rigorous protocols to safeguard that process. The pending lawsuits are seeking jury trials and unspecified compensation. We can't speak to whether or not there may be some criminal action. We haven't gotten to the bottom of what happened with the embryos. We have a lot of questions and no answers yet. That's what this litigation is going to be about. We want answers for these grieving couples and ensure nothing like this ever happens again. So with that story in mind, horrific, think about Carrie Lake and some other Republicans that were going around just saying that they don't support any restrictions on IVF. IVF is pretty much other countries have way more some restrictions on it than the US, and people have referred to it as the kind of the wild west, and they just should not be roaming unchecked. But there's obviously a lot of money involved in it. It's very touchy for folks. There was that case in Alabama which made people flip out when the Supreme Court ruled that a negligent IVF clinic could be sued under wrongful death. And people are like, oh my gosh, this is the cost of Roe v. Wade being overturned and abortion. Ah. It's like, okay, they're very negligent though. How come you don't want these parents to be able to seek justice under this thing? And it was civil, not even criminal. They didn't address the 14th Amendment, grant personhood to all fetuses or whatever. But there was panic from the right, and all of a sudden they were like, no, we are for IVF. We're going to make sure that we protect it, and we don't want restrictions. I don't support restrictions on IVF, etc. And there's immoral ways. I don't support IVF so much, but there's definitely probably more ethical ways it could be done. But you can't just go around saying that no holds barred, no restrictions. And I don't think that people say that, like Carrie Lake and whoever, really mean that they don't think there shouldn't be restrictions. But you just got to be careful about what you politic about, because there's real world consequences. Now they're being sued for negligence and fraud, and is that going to be like negligent misrepresentation, fraud, medical battery? Like I can see that happening because you're implanting dead embryos into a woman. I don't know what they're going to pursue as far as anything involving the actual death of the embryos, because apparently people don't want that. Apparently people don't want that. But I don't think that your baby should be in petri dishes where things like this that can happen. And for those that aren't going to be implanted, they're going to be frozen forever. There's a lot of ethical, moral dilemmas involving this that I don't think a lot of people have talked about or thought about. I haven't really thought about and talked about it until past couple of years. So I get it. There's a lot of people on the right who've done IVF. And that was part of the panic of the right instantly being like, we need to protect it. But there's still no reason why they shouldn't be held accountable for negligence. And again, with the Alabama case, if holding these IVF clinics accountable for, in that case, they weren't protecting and watching the embryos, and some person came in and removed them and dropped them, if you don't think that there should be any sort of repercussions there, or the repercussions that could happen with that clinic being sued for criminal, not criminal, but for wrongful death, if you think that is going to destroy the IVF industry, then there's something wrong with how it operates. And that's what we need to focus on if we're still going to allow it to try to make it better and ethical, not just being like, oh, we got to make sure we write something really quick to make sure that we're going to protect these people who did this bad thing. No, we need to make sure these bad things don't continue happening. But that's horrific. That's horrific. Despite how I may personally feel about it, the IVF, someone implanting dead embryos, and it's really sick. So we'll have to see if they really knew about that, and I guess we'll see if there's some kind of update later in the future. But gosh, what a weird world. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. You guys can go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate. If you like any of my shirts and whatnot, you guys can go to blacktnews.com and check out different merch like this I'm Not the Victim You're Looking For shirt, black tea mug, and My Money, My Business, and so on. So check that stuff out as well. And I do, Tina is in the chat, I saw. You guys can go to her website and check out some of her art. I do have a code you guys can use to get 15% off. It's black tea 15. So that's good till the end of the month. But she has all sorts of cool stuff you guys can check out, all sorts of neat paintings that are, big and small. So some of these are some of her minis. You see she's got a lion there. She's got she sold that giraffe on Sunday. I saw it happen. Squids and different landscapes. People like her jellyfish and other stuff. She's about to have a we're going to be at Motor City Comic Con next month, and a lot of the stuff will be gone. So if there's something that you really like, that winter scene is really pretty right there. I recommend you guys checking out. She does have bigger paintings as well that you guys can check out and get. They're not all just like tiny little miniature the stuff. She also has these cursed images that I'm ashamed that I gave some ideas to, where there's like a mixing of celebrities and Pokemon for some reason. The Ryan Reynolds Pikachu, for example. I don't know how the first one she did was this Defoe as Squirtle. I'm the one who came up with the Bully Maguire primate, though. That's on me. That's on me. I think I'm also responsible for Ron Swanson Jigglypuff, but I'm also responsible for the kid from Stranger Things as the Lickitung. I'm responsible for that one too. She also has her text portraits and stuff as well. So let me pull those up too. So like this is her Jesus. So she will draw the image by hand, and she just uses pens and Sharpies. So this is made out of the scripture John 3:16. So she has Jesus, she has some historical figures, politicians, celebrities, and so on. So I recommend that you guys check out her site. It's tinastextportraits.com. And again, the promo is Black Tea 15 for 15% off, and that will go until the end of the month, at least for right now. So go ahead and check out that stuff. Anyway, thank you guys very much, and I'll see you tomorrow. God bless.